So good afternoon. This is what we call Miracles in Manhattan. Been doing this for, today is the 6th year anniversary since we started doing this. It's hard to believe, isn't it? Yeah, but we started in 2013. We have a special guest today who I'm going to introduce in just a second. First, I want to echo what Go was talking about, and that's part of what we're going to be experiencing today. I think the Course in Miracles, as you all know, is the most incredible document to cross the face of planet Earth. You've heard me say that before. Prior to the Course, I was spending my time studying mysticism. Consequently, the most recent book, A Course in Mysticism and Miracles, and that's actually how I met Helen and Bill too, was through teaching a class in mysticism. But twice in the Course in Miracles, it says that it is one form of what it calls a universal course. So I always think it's an interesting question, what is the universal course? And so as Jasko was just saying, beyond all religions, there's a truth. There are no Hindus in heaven. There are no Buddhists, there are no Christians, there's no Jews. There's no division, there's no segregation and separation. It just absolutely doesn't work that way. There's actually, we understand that there's one mind, that we're a part of that one mind, and we're trying to explore more and more what that means to be a part of that, which is part of what we're going to be doing today. So a year ago this weekend, I was at a conference in Philadelphia where Mari Perron was doing a presentation on a course of love, and our speaker today was also there. And at one point, Mari turned to Christina and said, would she say something about whatever the question was at the time? I don't remember what the question was at the time. It doesn't make any difference. But I was sat and listened to her, and I thought how erudite and how clear, and I would like to really share Christina with you guys. And the opportunity has presented itself today. So just a little bit about Christina. Christina grew up in Malaysia, really Singapore, went to do college work in London, where she met the guy that's sitting in the back there behind the camera. That's her husband, Colin, who's going to be running the slides. And 38 years later, and 2 children, and several grandchildren,
38
and 2
years
boys.
in this country, 44 married. Yeah?
44 married, yeah. Wow. Right. So, Christina has been a systems engineer and technology stuff that I don't even understand, but she's going to be talking about Indra's net and how everything is connected together. And I'm just going to kind of occasionally bounce off of her a little bit in terms of what the Course in Miracles might say about some of these ideas, or not necessarily a Course in Miracles. It's something, at some point today, I'd like to say a little something about Piyarto de Chardin. But we'll do that when the time comes. So, Christina, come on over. And
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. So, first of all, I have a question. Did anybody notice this? Yes. Anybody notice this sign when they walked in? Did everybody miss it?
I saw some people reading it. I saw Shane reading it.
Okay, it says, laying aside all you think you know, please enter with curiosity, willingness, and playfulness. So, first thing I said to Chris when I saw the notice for this go up, saying I was a guest lecturer, was, I'm not a lecturer. I just want to share my experience. And so what I'm hoping we can do here today is kind of just relax into our hearts. Obviously, I'm going to be using visuals. I'm going to be talking. But but just to kind of get the experience of it from a little down here and not up in our minds. And I'm saying laying aside everything you think you know, not laying aside everything you know, because the heart knows in wholes. The mind tends to separate and divide and drop down to analyze, and there's nothing wrong with that, as long as it's being done with the heart. So, and you can pick it all up again when you leave. Everything you think you know, it's just a temporary thing. So that's kind of the context for this. Just to let you know what I'm going to be doing, I want to talk a little bit about where it begins, which is right here in our bodies, whole heart, heart and mind joined. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about the metaphor. I'm not an expert in any of these things. I know there are people in the room, Vedanta expert. I hope there are no quantum scientists. Any quantum scientists? No. So what my gift has been my whole life and in my work as a systems engineer is coming a little bit above the details and seeing the pattern, seeing the net, and finding ways to show people the connections which are not necessarily visible. So today I hope we'll do a little bit of that. So I'm going to do that with Indra's Net, do a little bit of quantum stuff, and in between maybe add some Course in Miracles, and A Course of Love is also something that I might add in there a little bit. But I really don't know how the time's going to go, so we'll just do what
go.
we can. And the truth is, when we know in wholes, any single one thing is enough, because it all begins right here in our hearts and minds. So I wanted to say thank you, first of all, to everybody who's kind of gotten me here, and to see the connections again. I was really quite surprised when I saw all of this together. We've got John with his One Mind Foundation, one. And then I looked at the Center for Remembering and Sharing, what was on the very first page. I switched the order a little bit. It said, remember who you are, see yourself in others, share your love and creativity in the world. And then co-creating clarity is the practice that I founded about 9 years ago, a year into studying A Course of Love. And those three are the tenets of what I do with people. The only response is love. The only time is now, the quantum moment. And we are the ones. We, whoever is in front of you, whatever is in front of you. It's the joining with that now and responding with love. That is all we're called to do. And we can end the presentation right now, because those capture everything that I'm about and want to share with people. And today, all I can do is share my experience of living that way through very difficult times in my life. And I want to say now, everything I say, think of it as being prefaced by, in my experience, for now. Because in the next moment, it's new. That's what going quantum means. So just remember that. I'm not an expert in anything at all other than my own life and my own experience. And I'm sharing from that. Each of you are experts in your own lives. So you will take from me whatever resonates and dump the rest. And that's perfectly good. That's exactly what it's about. So let's go next, Colin. I really... Okay, so just a quick thing. John talked a little bit about me, but I just want to see this quick picture from Singapore to software engineering, systems engineering. So this path in my life meant that I was right down in the nits and grits, because as a software engineer, you're looking at zeros and ones and writing code at that level of detail. But soon I moved into systems engineering, where what was important was the relationships. So what I was charged with was a whole division of a high-tech company that needed to move from component thinking to systems thinking. So that comes from there. And during that time, I discovered A Course in Miracles by seeing Marianne Williamson on the Oprah show. And that changed how I thought about things, but I kept seeing things in there that were like, oh my God, systems thinking. I didn't bring the book with me, but you'll see how dog-eared it is, and it's got so much stuff written in it. And I was immediately applying everything I was seeing and learning in A Course in Miracles in my work, but never letting on to anybody. I never talked about it. My goodness, in an engineering company, mostly men, and One time I wrote the word love in a report, and I kind of got in trouble. It was kind of tongue-in-cheek, but it was a bit of trouble being, not too many people would use that word in a high-tech company. So, but yeah, I did the workbook lessons many, many times over. I would take it with me. Literally what I would do is fold up the lesson in a teeny piece of paper and stick it in my bra. Then when I went to the bathroom, I would study it. That's how I did it during the day. And no one knew I was doing that. But I knew what I was doing was infusing everything with love. Because systems was all about relationships, not just in the technical definitions of the products, specifications, and all of that, requirements and so on, but in the way organizations work together, in the way the project was managed and unfolded, and more than anything, in people's relationships. So all of that was what I was doing. And then that fed into some research work, but what happened next was one day, I left high tech in between here somewhere and was consulting in the same field and doing some research work with the Fetzer Institute about the phenomenon of collective wisdom. When people come together, this magic happens in the middle, two or more are gathered. So we did that research, and right in the middle of that, after we published the report, I had this one morning, and it was April of 2003. I woke up with this quit or die. It was literally quit or die. I had to do that. And so I quit everything at that point, including my volunteer work and paid work and research work and everything. What I couldn't quit was being a wife and a mother. I still had one kid at home, one in college, and I still have my husband. So it was a very difficult time. And you can see there's a gap there of 6 years. And I won't go into the details, but thanks to John, because I read an article by Mari Perron in Miracles magazine in late 2008 and got in touch with Mari, A Course of Love came into my life. And I guess the rest is really history, because a year after that, I launched Co-Creating Clarity, and you've seen the 3 tenets of that. And quantum science, I kind of stuck it in there, but it really is because this is a bit linear, but quantum science has been an interest of mine my whole life. Growing up in Singapore is where it began, because my father was fairly widely read. And also metaphysics from a very early age, because my father was Church of England, my mother was Christian Scientist. So I read all of that stuff. And also he explored Indian wisdom. So I would read books that he left on his desk, like Lobsang Rampa's The Third Eye and things like that, old ancient stuff. I was reading that when I was very young. And quantum science. So next, Colin, let's see what's next. So I wanted to put this up, because it's all about living love. This is from the Course of Love. Love is not something you do, it is what you are. But it's also very practical. It's saying love is not being nice. You guys, can you see the screen okay, if I stand back here? Love is not being nice when you're feeling surly. Love is not doing good deeds of charity and service. Love is not throwing logic to the wind and acting in foolish ways that pass as gaiety, but cannot masquerade as joy. What is a dinner party when love is not? It's merely a social obligation. But a dinner party where love is welcomed to take its place becomes a celebration. This is the important part at the end. Love is not opposed to logic. A lot of what the culture feels is that love and being in your heart is opposed to logic. It's an either or. Well, it's not. But it returns true reason to the mind and heart. And again, when I said it's not, I meant in my experience, it's not. It is the logic of the heart, is when you invite your mind into your heart. And this is one of the things that has been happening over evolution. There's this guy, Ian McGilchrist. He did some work at Johns Hopkins in neuroimaging and psychiatry. And what he found is that if you look at the picture at the top, that row of, that is an image of the brain, left hemisphere and right hemisphere. And that red patch in the middle is a thing called the corpus callosum, which is literally translated to mean tough body. And see what's happening to it over evolution. It's getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Those connections between the 2 hemispheres has been reducing. So we are very split in that way. And as Einstein said, you cannot solve problems from the level at which they were created, which is why we appeal to the heart. And so for me, A Course in Miracles got a grip on my mind because I was like a steel trap, like having to control everything and get it down to the bits and bytes and zeros and ones and all the rest of it. Course in Miracles loosened the grip of my mind. And you'll find I won't use the word ego so much because it's become a word that is something to be, I feel it's being used in a way that's something to be not necessarily feared, but to be gotten rid of. And it's kind of true, but the way I see it is what it wants to be is to be loved and brought into the embrace of the heart. Because everything is, when you're living oneness, one mind, one heart, oneness, everything is there. There is no outside in oneness. Everything is loved and embraced. The only issue is whether it's a problem or whether it's become harmless or contributes something valuable, So anyway, so that's what I was really surprised when I saw this picture. And I listened to a talk he was doing at the Royal Society in England. And it was fascinating. So all of these things you can find online if you're interested in going deeper. So very quickly, starting here, okay? So this, I like using the chakra system. Is anybody here not familiar with chakras at all? Or you've all had some exposure, you know what I'm talking about, yeah? Well, it's just, so just like the Chinese ancient system of wisdom about the body has these meridians, and acupuncture is about unblocking the energy flow. The ancient Indian system involves vortices of energy. And there are 7 major ones. So you'll see that those are the 7: crown, the third eye, throat, and heart, will to act in the world as a divine human being, creativity, and root. So why I put this up is because what we're talking about now is a new chakra opening right at the top here over put your hand on your chest. Can you feel the top of your sternum, the hard spot there? And if slightly above it, there's a little dimple. It's kind of there. Who knows exactly where? I'm just speaking again from my experience. And I came across this it was right after 9/11 is when I heard about this, because people were saying that cracked open the high heart chakra in humanity. And that's what it was for. Some people said that, and it sort of resonated. But what it means is that this is the place in us of the true self, the place of the high heart and mind joined and healed. And this has been opening for quite a while now, so it's almost 20 years since I heard about it, and I'm sure it'd been around before. But what's happening is humanity is ready to heal that place. And what was fascinating to me is because the throat expresses the mind, you can think of the throat chakra as your mind chakra, because we talk until we're telepathic, we're expressing it through words, is blue, and the heart, the personal heart relationship is green. This new chakra is turquoise. So what I'm passing around are turquoise stones as just a little pocket stone, a reminder that this is where we are being asked to live from. Not throwing away the logic, not being drowning in our emotions and interactions with people, but in this place of the high heart. What's the next slide, Colin? Oh, there you go. So, and I put the pink rose quartz there too, because there's a transpersonal heart, and it's actually about arm's length in front of the high heart. So if I moved over here, this is where our transpersonal hearts are joining. So literally when 2 or more are joined, you're mixing up that field. And I want to show you that this is measurable. The Heart Math Institute has been doing a lot of very clean scientific measurement about the electromagnetic field of the brain and the heart. So here we're talking about the physical brain and the physical heart and the measurement. So this is the field. And what they say is that the heart is up to 100,000 times stronger than the brain electrically, and 5,000 times stronger than the brain magnetically. So I'm sure you've heard the sayings, when we learned to harness the power of love, we would have, rediscovered, fire or something. But we keep talking about it. I'm saying it's here now. It's right here. You don't need to listen to me anymore. It's right here.
That was Chardin, by the way, that originated that quote.
Really?
Yeah.
There you go. So we already did Chardin. It's right
a little
here.
bit, yes.
There we go. Yeah. Obviously, we'll do more. But And this is another depiction. There's an artist, Alex Gray. Didn't you say his studio is somewhere?
Yeah, Wappingers Falls, New York.
Oh, that place, right.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this is his depiction. So it's all depictions of the energy field that we're walking around with, okay? So we're going to do an exercise right now. And I say exercise, it's actually a practice. And we could stop right after that. It's a practice. I'm going to give you 3 breaths, so sit comfortably, and I'll take the slide off in a second. We'll put the net on. Oh, no, the next slide, I think there's a picture of a rose. But you take little breaths in between, because I'm going to be talking you through it. It might take longer. I don't want you to hold your breath or anything like that. But essentially, it's a practice that if you do practice it, you will be able to bring yourself into that position in a matter of 3 breaths, or even by just tapping yourself here. And I'm giving you the stone, so that energy of all of what we're doing here is going to be in that stone. And you walk away with it in your pocket to remind you to do that. Okay, let's just do it. All right, so sit comfortably, feet on the ground if you can. Just sort of relax yourself into the chair, and let's do this. You can close your eyes if you want to, or you can leave them open and focus on a point somewhere in front of you, because ultimately the practice is meant for you to be walking around the world like that. Either way. Feet on the ground, soles of your feet on the ground, and you can, I find for myself if I'm sitting down, but I'm going to stay, maybe I'll sit down. I'll sit too. There we go. I find that just to get my spine a little bit aligned, I just kind of draw in my abs a little bit, lower abdomen. I pinch my shoulder blades together, and then I find I shift my head back, my chin in a little bit, and then my spine is better aligned. So, take a deep in-breath, and as you exhale, drop your mind into your heart. You can put your hand on the high heart right there, and maybe even with a sigh. Let's do that again. Deep in-breath, and invite the mind down into the heart. And see your shoulders drop. Let's do it one more time. Let's get the mind down. Come on, mind. Invite it into the heart. And then with the next deep breath, unfurl your heart outwards like this flower you're looking at. Just allow it to relax and heart to open up a little bit around you. Imagine that electromagnetic field. Imagine the petals of a flower just kind of opening up. Relax in that openness and spaciousness. And take another deep in-breath. And now drop the golden cord from the heart all the way through your body, through the feet, through the root of your body, and into the center of the earth. And feel this connection to the earth as human beings on the planet, divine human beings. Feel that connection. Keep breathing. Feel the solidity of that, the support of Gaia. And they say that the core of Gaia is no longer carbon, it's crystalline. The crystalline core of Gaia. Because we are all ascending into being divine beings of light, both and, human and divine. The ability to live that on the planet is rising. To feel the stability and the safety of that, Mother Earth supporting us. And then another in-breath, and feel that light spiral up through your body, through the heart, through the crown chakra, and all the way up, beyond the earth, beyond the solar system, beyond the galaxy, to pure source consciousness. Just feel that spiraling light all the way up as you exhale. And now just bring that back into the crown and down into your heart. Pure, compassionate consciousness, source light, God. We have many, many names for this pure awareness, fundamental awareness, pure consciousness, compassionate consciousness. And bring all of that spiraled into your heart. And now unfurl a little bit more out there. And feel that electromagnetic field growing a little bit, embracing not just yourself and the people sitting around you, but this entire room. All the people in the room, all the chairs, all the tables, the projector, everybody here, the walls of the room, and beyond. We can expand as far as we want to, because we're as large as the galaxy and beyond. We're large as the universe. We're large because love is all of everything. But for now, just the room. That's good. Embracing all who are here and all the people who will be watching the video or watching this that's been recorded later on too, because there is no time and space that's other than what's here now. So hang out there for a little bit. And when you're ready, just open your eyes and come back. This is, I called it a practice, but it's also, it's a position. It's really a position of, can you feel different? Do you feel a little bit larger, a little bit more powerful? Edward, do you feel that? No? Okay, that's fine. It's happening even if you feel it or not. And we're all here in it, so it's amplified. So this is walking around the world with your eyes open in this position. Is really living from this place, the logic of the heart. What's the next slide? I can't remember. Oh, that's just another picture showing the toroidal fields. The torus is the mathematical name of that shape, the donut shape, basically. So a toroidal field is that electromagnetic field, which is quite measurable. And what's after that, Colin? Yeah, so this is a moving picture of the toroidal field. That's really how it's looking around us. If we could see the field. The next one, I think that's another picture of the planet. This is a depiction of what the planet looks like, and all of this is measurable. There's a electromagnetic field of the planet. There is so many hertz, I don't know the numbers, and there's something called the Schumann resonance, which is another number that's being measured. And the next one, Colin? There we go. That's another depiction of the planet. And that same toroidal field is around every planet and around the galaxy and on, which is measurable by instruments. Okay, so let's go back to 16, I think it is, Colin. So this I have to share with you because this just happened less than a week ago. Having just begun doing Indra's Net of Jewels type of gatherings. And mostly I've done smaller gatherings up to about 7, 10 people in person in a coffee shop in town. I've done some on Zoom, which has been wonderful. And this is the first time I've come to New York City to do something like this. So it's a little bit different, not sitting around a table together to connect, in that way. But I'm hoping there'll be something of value for everybody in the room. A week ago, a cousin of mine in Malaysia sent me a video to look at. And it was a video of a new destination building opening in Singapore's Changi Airport. This is an airport that's already like best airport in the world 7 years in a row. And they've opened this place and they've called it Jewel. And I'm going to show you a couple of pictures of it. I could not believe what I was seeing and reading. That's the building. It opened on the 17th of April. It is a glass and steel structure shaped as a toroidal field. I just thought this was like a full circle moment for me, like a little, and then the next picture, it's 10 stories high, and there is a cascade of water vortex in the middle of this building. 7 stories it falls, and it's gathered back, and it's 24/7 this water is circulating. It's pure rainwater. They gather the rainwater, and they circulate it. And at night, they use that water as a canvas for a light show. So it's lights of all different colors going on it. And I thought, my goodness, what a depiction. So I haven't had time to research who designed it. Depiction of who we are and who we are collectively and who the planet is, right there. So I was just so excited I had to share that because every little image that's in form, you see, what this is about is for us, not thinking of love as something ephemeral and, of just for our friends and family, but as a real thing, a power. And so these kinds of things and images help me, at least, recognize that I'm not imagining it when I say I can walk into a room and truly embrace everyone in the room. Okay, so let's put the next one up, Colin, which is what John was talking about a little earlier. Truth is truth is truth. So universal theology is not possible. I'm sure most of you are familiar with this quote. All terms are potentially controversial, and those who seek controversy will find it. Yet those who seek clarification will find it as well. They must, however, be willing to overlook controversy, recognizing that it is a defense against truth in the form of a delaying maneuver. Theological considerations as such are necessarily controversial since they depend on belief and can therefore be accepted or rejected. A universal theology is impossible, but a universal experience is not only possible, but necessary. It is this experience towards which the Course is directed. Here alone, consistency becomes possible because here alone, uncertainty ends. So when I talk about bringing it home to ourselves, this is the experience that we can share. First of all, it's with ourselves, healing that heart and mind rift, welcoming the mind to the wisdom of the heart. And then that spreads out to everyone. Let's keep going, Colin. Let's talk about Indra's net a little bit, which would be 21, I think. Okay, we'll just do that one too. Oh, I forgot about that. Mind and heart joined in union. So that's from A Course of Love. And we might, But has anybody here looked at A Course of Love at all? Yeah, so that's from I don't want to spend too much time on that if people are not necessarily familiar with it. But here we go. A Course of Love, mind and heart joined in union abolishes the ego. The ego mind was what was once in charge of your thoughts. And since it is incapable of learning, it has to be circumvented. And you circumvent it by going to the wisdom of the heart in order for true learning to take place. This is what A Course of Love accomplished. This learning was accomplished in you, making you the accomplished. And as the accomplished, you are now able to access universal mind. And what this is saying is that this isn't something in the future. You don't have to struggle and work towards it. This is present now. Both A Course in Miracles and A Course of Love say heaven is a now, right here and now. And it only takes us to welcome that, to invite it in. So, okay.
If I could, it seems to me that one of the problems is, I watched a show last night on Osama bin Laden. Well, some of you may have seen the show. Anyhow, the problem was fighting over ideologies and deciding that the other one is wrong. And then once we decide that the other one is wrong, what's the solution? Kill it. Right? We're going to destroy, they're going to destroy us, we're going to destroy them. Where this whole thing is going to is towards a kind of universal love, theology, perspective. You may know that in addition to being a part of this, I work with All Faith Seminary here in New York. And what All Faith Seminary is trying to do is we're recognizing that eventually there has to be a transcendence of that which sees the difference. Seeing the difference is the problem.
Yeah.
And it's not that there aren't differences, but on the level of the heart, there's no difference.
The heart sees in wholes, and it sees distinctions within the whole.
Right.
It's able to see both and, whereas the mind only sees the differences and the separation.
That's very important.
Yes, that's the
Right.
huge difference, that the heart can trump the mind in
Right.
that way. Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons we love our dogs so much. No, I'm serious about that,
Yeah,
because they're all
yeah.
heart, right?
Unconditional
Or,
love.
pardon?
Unconditional love.
Unconditional
Yeah,
love.
totally.
But we can be that same way with regard to everything, including each other, including being able to kind of stretch out there to the point where we can really love even that which is really different from what we are. Some of you, I'm sure, remember I told a story here a few weeks or a few months back about Helen Schuckman's experience on the subway here in New York, where she found the scene that she was seeing disgusting. She closes her eyes, has a little kind of visual experience of seeing this gigantic man in a clearing in the woods who puts his hand on her back. When she opens her eyes, she has the most profound sense of love for everybody on the subway, who just a moment ago she saw as being disgusting and upsetting. It doesn't have to be that way. So the Course, I think both courses, the Course in Miracles and the Course in Love, is asking us that we reach outside of that, what we might think is a comfort zone. Actually, it's not a comfort zone. It's a very uncomfortable place to be, because as long as I'm thinking that there's a problem out there, I've got a problem. But there isn't any problem unless you perceive a problem, in which case you've got a problem. I just said, but the thing is to be able to to raise our own consciousness up to the level at which we can stop the insanity. I think one of the things that I was thinking about as I was watching the Osama bin Laden thing last night was the level of insanity kept getting raised. You know, you hit me, I hit you. You know, and I'll hit you harder. I'll knock down your big towers in your biggest city, right? That's how hard I'll hit you, right? And then, of course, we come back with a tremendous amount of force and power, which is what would be expected if you're going insane. The thing is to reverse the process and start going towards sanity rather than toward insanity. But something's got to be done, and of course, it starts here. I mean, it starts inside you, and it starts inside me.
John, I
Yeah.
love what you always say, is that if you make what doesn't matter to you, you'll only get madder.
Right. Right. Okay, just want to share that.
No, that's good. I think I'm going to skip to 52, Colin, right now, and just do. I want to build on what John just said. So this is, I put down stuff that I kind of wanted to share, and I have no idea how much of it I will. But this seemed what John is saying. So here's the thing that I learned from A Course of Love, because I was with A Course in Miracles for many, many years, but my mind was so strong. I'd been trained to use my mind in ways that A Course in Miracles was able to shake it open, but not loose its hold. So I'm forever grateful to John for having an article by Marie Perron inside his magazine, because what that did was crack open the rest of it and allow my heart to take over. So, but here's the thing. I had always been taught and knew that feelings were like not that a good thing to be bothered with. Feelings are to be put aside. You've got to be logical. You've got to think about stuff and be objective. There is no such thing as objectivity, as I've come to experience. So why I put this up is because I think the notion of feeling your feelings is a bit controversial for a lot of people. So I made this into it's not really a linear process, but this is when something happens, like the Twin Tower disaster, or more recently, the things that have happened in New Zealand and so on. You don't pretend it's not happening. You observe it with clear eyes, but you don't observe it from up here. You bring yourself into your heart with the mind and heart joined to the high heart, and you observe it with clear eyes, and you acknowledge your feelings. You identify your feelings, my feelings. I've got to say my feelings, whether it's anger, grief, fear, whatever it is I'm feeling. First, we have to acknowledge that. You know how a lot of, I'm very careful how I use the word acceptance. People talk a lot about acceptance, but what I learned living A Course of Love is it's not acceptance of what is going on out there. It's acceptance of how I feel about it. That's a step we miss, at least I missed, for years and years and years, and therefore was constantly in situations that were not good for me. because I was not listening to my own feelings. So acceptance, well, first you acknowledge you have feelings and identify them. Even naming feelings can be very powerful because it looses its hold on you. You describe it fully in neutral words, whatever is happening out there. Then you feel your feelings and accept my feelings. And you, as John was saying, you decline to compare, evaluate, and judge those feelings. And you decline to compare, evaluate, label, or judge what's happening out there. You just look at it with neutral. And that is a huge task. Observation is not easy for people. This is where I began my work in systems engineering, decades ago. Engineers thought they were describing something, but they were actually concluding something. And I can't come up with examples right this minute, but a lot of the work was stepping behind what are your assumptions about this, and unpacking what was being said. Because we mix in our conclusions and our comparisons and everything into what we think we're describing. And you have to pause. There has to be a little pause in order to listen, and that's where the breathing practice comes in. Just taking a little pause to go into your heart and then listen. What is my response? What is it that I am supposed to share or do or say or whatever? And it may be nothing other than allowing myself to feel my feelings and wrap myself up in cotton wool and hug my teddy bear and hug my husband and just feel bad about it. And that dissipates the feelings. So what we're saying is responding means you got to listen, discern, and choose. And that's the only way we respond with love. The only way we don't throw our fear and anger out on the world, as John described by, launching attacks and wanting to destroy the other. So, for example, when New Zealand, the massacre happened there, praying for all the people involved, including the perpetrators. Always, 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 and I'm sure you do that. But there's a real reason for that, because they're all you, they're all one. So, let's go back now, Colin, to 21. So, let's do a little bit on Indra's net. Again, I am no expert in any of this. This is how I've described everything I've read. Imagine the universe as an infinite net, spreading in all directions with no beginning or end. At every node is strung a multifaceted jewel, each one reflecting all others in an ever-changing co-creative flow. Each jewel a fractal of consciousness, a living organism, both a microcosm of the whole and inseparable from the whole, both uniquely distinct and essential to the integrity of the net, the whole and the parts in organic unity. This is the Vedic metaphor of Indra's net of jewels, written in Sanskrit some 5,000 years ago. And today, quantum science, with discoveries like uncertainty principle and non-local entanglement, seems to be demonstrating the reality of this metaphor. So it's from one of 4 Vedas that were received and written in ancient Sanskrit, Vedic Sanskrit, which is different from contemporary Sanskrit, about 2500 BC, which is the Bronze Age. And it is the foundation of Vedanta as well as Huayan Buddhism. So people are familiar with that. You'll find this at the core of it. And the essence of it is simply that there is but one being, and every soul is that being in full, not a part of that being. So I just have some images here to show you, to get a feel for what it is. That is one that I found, which depicts it like a web with droplets of water. The next one is more of a matrix.
But that shows how it's reflected in each
It
one.
shows more clearly the reflections, right? So obviously there are many, many depictions out there. Let's do the next one, Carmen. So each jewel is a unit somehow. It's a fractal. Fractal, is everybody familiar with the term fractal? Yeah, everything is contained. And that's how nature is. Everything is a repetitive fractals growing and growing. That was something that was popularly being talked about back in the 80s. You remember there were PBS shows about fractals and so on, books were being published. I remember hearing about it back then. The connection is amongst all the jewels, and they're interacting with every other jewel. And I say interacting because there aren't real boundaries. We're actually flowing into each other. We don't realize that. Interacting. And it's reflecting and responding to every other jewel, and is co-creating every other jewel and the entire net. And this is kind of my now experience and interpretation of the rest of it. We each are, in the first place, a unique sparkling jewel. In the first place, unique expression of love. You can think about it that way. But we're also every other jewel. The more I dug into quantum science, the more that became clearer and clearer, that we are literally each other's identity. And we are also every interconnection on the web, that relationship. And we're also the whole net. So that's kind of a different way to walk around the world. Oops. I think there's somebody saying they agree with that.
I think you've just enlightened us a bit.
I know. Shine a light on that, all right. So it's a different way of walking around in the world. You know, how would you be sitting here differently, you know, if we really have been practicing that, you know? So we'll see. I don't want to bore everyone. Oh, I want to show the next picture. I love this picture. This is the artist Kusama, who I love. One of these days I'll visit an installation. But this is an installation called the Infinity Mirrored Room. I think it was in New York City. Have you been to her? Yes, Yasko? But this is, it's like it's like a depiction of Indra's net to me. You know, the mirrored room, you see everything is reflected in there. It's called the souls of millions of light years away. I love the mix of souls and time, light years, you know, in that. Okay, what's next, Carmen? And looking now at A Course of Love, what they mean by, John, is Christ consciousness, it's a while since I've studied A Course in Miracles. Is that phrase used in A Course in Miracles?
No, not per se, no.
No. Mm-hmm. And what it means in A Course of Love is this relationship. It's saying that it is not God, it is not man, it is the relationship that allows the awareness that God is everything. Christ consciousness. And you can take the word Christ off and use compassionate if you're talking to somebody who's not a Christian. It's compassionate consciousness, that source consciousness. It's an easier way to talk about it sometimes. Wisdom, Sophia, spirit, it's that without which God would not know God. And what I like about this is it talks about, it is the expression of oneness in relationship with itself. Life is the connecting tissue of the web of form with the divine all. Life is consciousness, and Christ consciousness is awareness of what is. The awareness of connection and relationship. So we walking around not as separate people, but as relationship within that. And our behavior and our way we respond to things can be very, very different. It is the merging of the unknowable and the knowable through movement, expression, and being. So that's about expression of love in form. We are all expressions of love in form, both human and divine. And the next is a kind of scientific look at this. And for me, the words love and light are interchangeable, which is why I got into quantum science, because love is the way spiritual paths talk about the substance of life, and light is the way scientists talk about the substance of life.
You know, you can also throw in here, in addition to light and love, life.
Life.
All these L's.
Life is
light.
the expression
love,
of light and love. There you go. So in Chasing the Mystery of Light, Einstein developed the theory of relativity, establishing that at the speed of light, time ceases to exist. A photon, which is a unit of light, a packet of light, which has no mass, can cross the cosmos without using any energy. So for light beams, time and space do not exist. oops, mistyped there. We are light beams. Now, we don't have to go crazy and, but just remembering that and helps us live in a much more connected way.
So when we're living within the context of the body is pretty dense. It actually says that at more than one point, right?
It has been very dense. And the more we live in this space, what they're saying, and I say they because there's no evidence I can point to, but there are a couple of new agey type of places I go to kind of read what's happening. And that's where earlier I said, they say the core of Gaia is now crystalline and not carbon. They also say that the body, the human body, is transforming too, in a way that enables us to hold more light. So the density is lightening up. And again, this is take it or leave it, but this is my experience. When you expand the heart and you feel that, that is the light that you're bringing down onto the planet and walking. So it does lighten the density, but you're absolutely right. If we stay, certainly we stay in our minds, we're in a very dense way of the body. But the body, they talk about DNA changing and all kinds of things, but I am not familiar with all of that other than to say, oh, perhaps I'll see what my experience tells me, because all the answers are right here.
Anybody who has an out-of-body experience is going to, they don't want to come back.
Right.
Universally,
Right.
you don't want to come back. You don't want to come back to the body, simply because you realize how dense it is, and how much there's actually a line in the Course, is more than once talking about are being imprisoned in a body. That actually uses the word imprisoned in a body. And I think that we all feel that. There's times when you would like to be able to transcend this, right? And we know that. There's a part of us somehow or another that knows that that's possible, that we can transcend this. But love is the way we do it. Because what is love? It's this experience, that, like as you're saying, that we have with at least one other person, and lots of everybody.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's sort of, transcend is one way to describe it. I think, for me, it's like the out-of-body experience you talked about, John. That's transcending it. You're outside of the body. And you can literally
That's
look
what the
down and see the
experience
body,
is, yeah.
right? You see that some people talk about looking down on the hospital bed and seeing
Sure.
their body lying there and so on and
Right.
so forth. I think what I'm talking about is a little bit different, which is a both-and thing. This was an article that John asked me to write, which was published in September, October issue of Miracles, I think. It was all about both and that's how, so it's transcending is in this blissful space of light, being pure light almost. Being in the body is dense. But what if we can put them both together? What if the light can live in the body and wants to come down into the body? What if it's more of a transmogrification of this being here, when we open this wholeheartedness and invite the light in, willingness? That's what Christ consciousness is. In my experience and understanding of 10 years with A Course of Love, it is about opening our hearts and welcoming that Christ consciousness within us, actually, to come forward. So it's like inviting forward that wholeness that's always been there. So
It's interesting, the word light has two meanings.
yes,
Light is in light,
yes,
and light is in
light, yes,
Light.
light is a feather, right? As
Yeah,
feather.
right,
Right. That's
right.
cool.
lights us up.
So this guy, Dr. Jacob Lieberman, who's done some pretty interesting research and wrote a book or two, he says light is energy. It's also information, content, form, and structure. It is the potential of everything. And you could remove light and say love is this energy and also all of these things. And that's kind of where quantum science is going, to show us that light is that potential of everything. And that's, quantum science is the study of light. Somebody a long time ago, and I don't remember which scientist now, discovered that light travels in packets as well as in waves, and they give it the name photon, the packet. A quanta is a quantity, and photon is a quanta of light, so quantum science. Well, I guess we'll go right into a little bit of quantum. So this is a picture that, again, from Alex Gray. Did anybody go to his exhibit when he was in Brooklyn? He had this whole chapel of sacred mirrors. Did you go? I missed it. I missed it.
He gifted me his Christ painting that I have in the black and white book.
Awesome.
I was friends with him for a while.
Cool.
Really intense.
Yeah, I bet. And he's trying to build something in Wappingers Falls now and put up that whole thing there, and it's not ready at all. But so this is his final picture in that series of paintings that he started. It starts at the DNA level, the atomic table, and goes through the layers of the physical body, you know, from the respiratory system and circulatory system and bone structure through to human beings, and then beyond all the fields around. And this is the final one. He calls it the universal mind lattice. And it's a picture I came across, I was introduced to probably back in the late 80s, and they've always used to show people that we are really all one. This is what's all around us right now, you know, one depiction of it. So, is everybody ready for shall we take a little break earlier, or, because I'm about to start the quantum science stuff. What do you think,
Yeah,
John?
sure, anytime.
People
do it
need
now?
to move a little bit? Is it getting a bit warm in here? Why don't we move and
Okay.
come back in 10 minutes, and then I'll go into the quantum stuff.
Okay.
You put that-